All right, we're back talking NASCAR again for Martinsville week. The NOCO 400. Eric Smith from RaceReviewOnline.net, of course, is here. And Eric, the reason we're here is because, yes, Chase Elliott is back.
He's back. We kind of questioned that on the show the other day. Is maybe Talladega, and is that smart to come back at Talladega? Well, he's coming back a week earlier. Granted, this was the 6-week mark that they said, but they kind of teased a while ago that Talladega would be the first race, and here he's back. He'll be in the number 9 Chevrolet for Hendrick Motorsports in this weekend's race in Martinsville, and we'll see how he can do. Probably shake off some cobwebs, but the most important part is he's back.
Yeah, let's talk a few. And again, remember, as you mentioned, 6-week absence, the snowboarding incident. Anybody watching this show knows all about it. The leg injury. So what this is about, we want to put this video, 2 reasons. 1, update his playoff scenario. And 2, since we didn't talk about him, for the race, we'll let you know what his history is at Martinsville in case you want to put some money on him this week. By the way, I should note that interesting timing, and I think this might be kind of purposeful, is that his crew chief returns, Alan Gustafson, as well.
So, yeah, how ironic is that? 4 weeks up, so that 9 car, which we'll talk about in a minute as far as owners and stuff, but they're back to full strength. You got your crew chief back, got your driver back. They each have 4 weeks. Well, Elliott 6 weeks. Granted, he was rehabbing. It's like he was just sitting on the couch. But Gustafson had a month, kind of recharge his batteries, and
Gustafson had a little bit more of a vacation, I guess, than Elliott did. So
yeah, there's no rehabbing or physical anything like that. More, granted, he was still working, and I get he could still work in the war room, but it wasn't like he was traveling for the last month, and he was just stuck to home base, and now we'll see what they can do together.
Well, Elliott, as we take a look at the points, is in 34th place. So he is 134 points back. Now, the way this works is it's simple. He wins and he's in the playoffs, correct?
Yep, correct. Now, granted, if there's more than 16 winners, which it hasn't happened yet. We even talked about it last year, and it still didn't happen. We had 15 eligible for the playoffs, which we'll get into with the owner points. We had 16 regular season winners. There wasn't 17, so every winner got in. So, yes, there's a more than likely chance if Elliott wins, he's going to get in. You can't just say definite because, hey, there could be 18 or 19 winners. But there's 18 races left. We've had 7 different winners in 8 weeks, so there's a possibility. However, we've seen how good some of these drivers have been. I have a feeling you're going to get multiple wins out of Seabelt, multiple wins. Might get a 3rd one out of Byron. Larson will probably win it. So that's just going to take another one away. So if he wins, he should be in. However, I do got to make a caveat. If he wins, he's probably going to be low man on the totem pole among those that have won. So if you get a 17th winner, it's the top 16 in points among those have won. That's where he's in the deficit of making up the ground. However, I struggle to see us getting 17 winners in a 26 race regular season when Byron's already won twice. Sure. So you're basically you're not leaving much room to have that many different winners. So the easiest path is to win. The other path, can he points his way there? Can he get up to 16th? 134 points doesn't sound like a lot to make up. He's got a lot of stage points in the past. He can win get stage wins, accumulate playoff points, knock out a bunch of race wins. Granted, that's if he doesn't win, so you're talking about a bunch of second place finishes. He can do it. We've seen it. He can make up that ground. The only factor, again, I go with is 16th in points going to be the cutoff? Last year, Truex Jr., I think, was 5th or 6th, and he didn't make the playoffs because Blaney, who was like 3rd, was the cutoff for a point. So if that scenario happens, then, yeah, it's going to be hard for him to get all the way back up there. 16th is probably about the most he's going to make. So the best route for him is to just win, and there's plenty of places coming up to where he can do just that, win. So that's the easiest route.
Because when I look at the standings right now, and I see from 10 on, you got Blaney, Bowman, Hamlin, Stenhouse has a win, Byron. That's to 14. And I can't imagine any of those drivers, including, of course, the 2 that have wins, they're all going to make it. I'd be shocked if none of them made it. So that leaves Cindric at 15, and Buescher at 16.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of room in that scenario if he does not win.
Exactly.
So unless and not to say that he can't catch like a Cindric or a Buescher, but who's to say that they don't win? So yeah. I think I don't know. I don't know if he'd get it on points. I can hear you that sure there's a chance and definitely could happen, but I get the feeling that if he's getting in, he's got to get in with a win.
I get that's the easiest route. I think that's the most logical is the win. And if you look at what's coming up, I mean, Martinsville, he's won there in the past. So I think the leg injury with the heavy braking he's going to be doing, is he going to jump out and win this race? He was only 10th in both races last year. So
by the way, he started off as the odds-on co-favorite on the Bovada website I use.
Wow, they threw him all the way up there already. Yeah, I don't see I don't see a race win the first race back with your leg. You're going to have. I mean, that's his left leg. It's the braking leg. That's why he, even though being cleared, he still did the simulator work just to see if his left leg can brake. So, yeah, will he win this week? I doubt it. Top 15, top 10, that'll be a good day. However, Talladega, minimal braking, he won the last race there. He was 7th in the spring race last year. Then you go to Dover. He won the last race there last spring. Kansas and the 600 in St. Louis, probably not the best of tracks. But then you go to Sonoma. We see what he did on road courses. He was 8th there last year. And then I know you got the Chicago, the inaugural street race. Who knows what's going to happen there? But the other 5 races in that span around it, Nashville, Road America, Atlanta, New Hampshire, Pocono, his 5 results in those races last year were all first or second.
Yeah, he's fine.
So I think he's going to get a win in this span. And not even have to worry about getting to the 18th race. So that's big for NASCAR. They need to have Elliott in the playoffs, just like NBA needs LeBron and Curry. They need the big guys in the playoffs. NASCAR needs Elliott in the playoffs. And I think, I'm not saying, we're going to say, oh, NASCAR rigged it for him to win. I'm not saying that. Sure. That's not going to happen. Elliott's a good driver. I think he gets in. He's got the waiver. We do need to talk about that. He has a waiver. NASCAR granted it. So the thing that since he didn't run every race, people are, well, was he even going to make it in? He didn't run every race. NASCAR's granted the waiver. The other factor in this is the top 30 in points rule. Remember, it used to be even last year and prior, you could win, but you had to be in the top 30 in points. If you weren't in the top 30 in points, even with a win, you weren't making the playoffs. They don't have that anymore. And before, people are like, well, NASCAR's rigging the rules for Chase Elliott. Not true. That rule was in place from this off season. They already had that rule.
But he ain't gonna have a problem getting into the top 30 anyway. So.
No, I think he could probably get there by the end of the month.
That's not going to be an issue.
Yeah, for that note, it's the top 30 rule. Even if he aggravates something and has to miss a few more races, he's already got the waiver, and the top 30 in points is not a thing anymore. So I do think he's going to be sitting pretty good. I think he'll get a win. And you got 18 races. All he needs is one win in that 18 race span. He's good enough to do that.
And starting with this week, he was in the new car last year. He finished 10th in both races. He led 185 laps in this race. Then on October, 54 laps. Matter of fact, in his last 4 races, the 54 laps was, besides not leading a lap in the 21 race, which he finished second, those other 4 races, the 54 laps was the lowest amount of laps he led. He has 185, 236, and 289. That's in his last 5 races. And again, as I mentioned, the race he did not lead a lap, still finished second. He has the win back in 2020. That's the one he led 236 laps. So this is a good track for him. But, I mean, is it a great track? No, but a good track. And like you said, though, there's so many other capable drivers, and it's going to be really hard to believe that he's just going to pick things off first race, injury or not, just to even have the time off and the kind of connection he's got to get back going again with his crew chief and the whole team. It's asking too much for him to win this week.
It is,
especially at 7-1.
Yeah, looking when he's just pedestrian for his numbers last year. I mean, 10th is a good day for most people, but he wasn't dominant. And like I said, this is a left. I mean, I presume, I don't 100% know, but most race car drivers brake in the race car with the left foot, and you get back on the gas with the right. Well, you break your left leg, and you're going to have to put that pressure on the brake pedal for 500 laps.
Well, I
That's a
wonder
lot.
what kind of. I'd like to know. I'd like somebody to ask him how he prepared for the race. Like, did you simulate 500
He
laps?
did. They did do the simulator Tuesday afternoon and Wednesday
And
morning.
that includes the braking.
Yes.
So he's gone through it already.
He's did
Got
it.
the head thumbs up that he feels okay, apparently. And now it's just a matter of him going out there and doing it for real.
Yeah. And the only thing with the simulator is it doesn't the feel of the car and the G-forces. Granted, there's not a lot of G's at Martinsville, but you're still going to have some. And for 500 laps, he's going to be worn down by the end of this race for sure. Yeah. Most people would. So is this the leg strength? That's what I figured. Is he going to be able to have that stamina by lap 480 to still be in the lead and win this race? It's just hard. It's just hard to fathom that happening the first race back. I think this one's more or less to get him back. He's physically been cleared. Yep. Even if he's not 100%, he's not sitting at it. He's probably, I want to race.
Sure.
So I could see him getting in and
sooner the better.
Get a top 10. Yeah. But as far as a race winner, I just struggle to see it for this week.
The only thing I'll admit, the only thing I did myself is, because I did this yesterday before the PGA Tour event started, was I didn't want to put money on a couple of the top golfers straight up because their odds were too low. But I kind of thought, you know what, they might win. So what do I do? And I said, you know what? I parlayed them a little bit with a couple of the drivers in the race. And I said, yeah, you know what? I'll go ahead and I'm going to parlay those two drivers with Chase Elliott too. Because if I just parlayed like two of the favorites in this week's PGA Tour event and parlayed it with Chase Elliott at 7-1, and I put $1 on it, you make $80. So I figured, why not? I mean, because you never know. He's that good of a driver. We're not saying that he can't win this race. It's possible, or else I wouldn't have even put a parlay on it. But again, I did not straight out put like even 10 or 15 or $20 on him. I'm not going to do that because I just think that's asking a little too much.
It is for his first race back, and there's a reason he's got one career Martinsville win. So
yeah, just one, exactly. Yeah,
two with a bum leg.
Yeah.
It's just hard to fathom. Yeah. So like I said, this one's more about getting the cobwebs off, making some points. Maybe staying out and getting a stage win, doing what you need to do. Granted, we do have to say, last year in the first two stages of the spring race, he dominated. I think he led almost every lap. But it's a different conditions, different strategies, different downforce
That
levels.
Was a night race?
Things are different. That was the night race. Yeah.
That was we talked about that on our other show.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm not expecting to win. I will expect a top 15. I do think he can do that. But just an outright win. I mean, we talked about the other day how good Bell's been there. And can Hamlin get his season back going? He's got 5 grandfather clocks, so he knows how to get around there.
And Truex is trying to get his season going.
Yeah. Blaney's been a top 3 guy, top 4 guy. You're asking a lot for his first race back to just magically beat those guys. I just don't see it happening this week. If he could get through it, Talladega, doesn't need his left leg a whole lot there.
I wonder what is there any way to find out how the attendance, how the ticket sales might have boosted up over the last 24 hours?
What were they at before this announcement, and what are they at now? He's going to have an impact one way or the other. You have a feeling that the TV ratings, granted, I just don't see him magically being up over last year because none of the races have. But each week they've been coming down like incremental amounts. Does it go back up a little bit? So the percentage, I should say. So I'll be curious with that too.
Okay, so one last thing you mentioned. I mean, I obviously don't care. I've said this many times. I think it's silly, but hey, I also think the dirt racing is silly, and there are a lot of NASCAR diehards that like it, which to each its own. But the owner's points situation. Yeah. So talk a little bit about that.
So they're 20th in the owner's points. So they can get into in theory, the top 16 pretty easily, especially now that Elliott's back. And what the owner points is, again, all the race winners, they're all part of that in that car. It's all titled. So remember last year, Kurt Busch, he won Kansas, but he wasn't in the playoffs. So he took himself out of the driver's race, but the owner's points, that's where the money's made. That's where the owners make their money because there's more money in those standings. So 2311 wasn't going to be dumb enough to take the car out. So they kept it. So that bumped Blaney, who didn't win a race, out. So that's where you had your 16 winners. They're all in. So the way it just handled, because it's different points, Larson and the 5 team were doing what they needed to do. They made it out of the round of 12 in the owner's race, but he didn't in the driver's race. So remember, in the round of 8, he won Homestead. So that car was in the championship 4, even though Larson was eliminated 2 rounds prior in the driver's side. It could happen if Elliott, that 9 car, gets far enough up in the points, because he's not terrible. I mean, he's 20th in that side. He can do a good damage doing that thing up. So if he doesn't win in the regular season himself, but the car continues to do good, and let's just say we get 14 or 15 winners, and Elliott, driver points-wise, doesn't have enough, but the car is solidly in there. Well, the car is in the playoffs, but he's not. So right. It's a weird gimmick of that happening. I just hope he wins. We don't have
a scenario that we're not really going to have to worry about.
No. Because it was too confusing last year, but the owner's points actually in the industry mean more than the driver's points, because that's where all the money's made. So
and that's, again, that just shows you there's a lot of weird stuff going on with NASCAR.
Yep.
For that to be the case when a lot of people have no idea. I mean, you have to be a diehard, long-time NASCAR dude to understand. Because I know there are a lot of people who are watching our shows for the first time. They've been NASCAR fans over the last year or two. I'm sure they have no idea what we're talking about.
Most people don't. They don't really even comment on it much. So most years it goes hand in hand, but these last 2 years, because of injuries or people missing races, it's played a role. So we'll see how much of a role this plays down the road. I mean, it could if he doesn't win, but if he wins, it'll take care of itself.
All right, so that's going to wrap it up. Now, we want to remind everybody to check out, if you haven't already, check out, and we'll have a description. We'll have the link in the description of this video. That is our regular preview show for this race. That was on Tuesday. So that's normally when we preview the races. So if you are new and this is a video that you just opened up and you thought it was interesting because Chase Elliott was there, then please check that out, because we have weekly race previews every week. NASCAR Cup Series. We just finished recording the IndyCar Series race for this week. The preview Eric just did for Long Beach. And also CJ will be back in a few weeks to talk about F1. So we'll have so we basically have the F1, IndyCar, and NASCAR Series races covered all season long. So if you haven't already subscribed, please do so, and like the video as well. That's also very important. And if you have any questions or comments too, please let us know what's on your mind. Other than that, Eric, we'll all look forward to seeing Chase Elliott on Sunday. We'll see what that does for the race, the ratings, and so forth. And we'll be back next Tuesday, hopefully, to preview Talladega.
Yep, I should have nothing, and there's no IndyCar race next week, so there should be nothing in the line on Tuesday.
So it's Tuesday. Yeah.
Yeah.
See you on Tuesday.
See ya.